we are then? Okay. We're all set. Well, good afternoon. I have to admit, I'm starting this presentation with two apologies. The first apology is these are a lot of slides and there's a lot of verbiage on them. I really had to work hard to cut it down. The second apology is it really needed to be long. So anyhow, I'm going to try and get through this. Hope you find it interesting. I've been involved with Model Ts since I left Ford Motor Company in 2001. I managed to avoid them up till then. Since that time, I spent a lot of time driving, working, and at museums to talk about Model T. People always talk about the fact that Model T changed the world. And there's universal agreement that Model T changed the world. Well, pardon the language, but I reached the point where I had to say, okay, just what the hell did the Model T do? So I've spent the last year and a half or so trying to put together how the Model T actually could change the world. I think I pretty good. Okay, we still got, all right. In the United States, in 1900, population was 76,212,168. I don't know how they came up with those last three numbers, but statistics being what they are. 76 million people in the United States. What do we now? 300 million something? 60% of the population lived in rural areas. We were a very agrarian country. People worked on farms or supported farming, 60% of them. 40% lived in cities. In the urban areas, there weren't any suburbs back then. Male life expectancy was 47.3 years. 12% of men lived to the age of 65. Women lived about a year longer. About the same as today. 14% of the U.S. population had a high school education. Folks, this is out of 76 million people. In 1900, there was one car for every 9,511 people. Something wonderful is going to happen. This is the growth of the automobile industry. Now you see, we started because Ford started in 1903. I started there. One car for every 2,450 people. Now that's a big jump just in a few years. We'll talk more about that later on. By 1920, there was one car for every 13 people. 1927, one car for every 6 people. Think of the impact of that on our society. Now let's talk about Ford. Model T's impact in the U.S. auto industry. Now these numbers look very, very big, and I have to justify it. This is against the top 8 U.S. auto companies at the time. Just got through, we're doing some research for a new exhibit. Excuse me, I'm coming through. We've actually, part of the exhibit is in Milwaukee Junction area, Detroit, which is where the automobile industry in the United States really started. We've looked at every automobile company in the city of Detroit between 1900 and 1927, and there's about 85 car companies in Detroit alone. So we're talking, in 1909 was the peak, there was about 250 automobile companies in the United States. Now, the The big 8 were the big sellers. The others, a lot of small companies, some of them in rural areas, where a guy might make 4 or 5 cars. But out of the number that's counted, these are car companies that actually designed, developed, and sold the car to the public. There were hundreds of others that never sold a car, never built a car, that may have shown up with something at an auto show. Some of the car companies were absolute stock frauds. But, so what we're talking here is the top 8. And what you see in the light of Model T, it went from 25% of the market up to 1914, which was the beginning of the continuously moving assembly line. Up until this point, cars through the early part of 1913, Model Ts were station assembly built just like they did at the Piquet plant. So 14, we're starting to see the beginning of the continuously moving assembly line. 64% of the automobiles sold with all the major companies in the United States were Model Ts. That number bounces around between 50 and 73. Economics make a difference in there, a few other things. And then it gets up to 21 was the big year. 73% of the large volume auto manufacturers, Ford cars. And then at 1927, as we see, just before the Model T goes out of production, and it only had about 5 months production, but it didn't sell very well at all. It was down to 13.9%. But huge impact in the automobile industry. Okay, the first change that I'm going to talk about, the selling patent. This is one that's may seem a little strange to you, but it's very important to understand. In 1895, George B. Selden, who was an attorney who knew nothing about automobiles, was granted a patent for liquid hydrocarbon powered vehicles. To make that simple, gasoline engines. This meant that the holder of this patent could decide who could build gasoline-powered automobiles. Now, when this Selden patent came out, it really wasn't that significant because up until the early 1900s, the vast majority of automobiles sold in the United States were either electric or steam. Gasoline-powered cars only represented about 30% of the total market. So these guys, with this patent, they created a group called LaCombe, Association of Automotive Licensed Manufacturers. And they could decide who could build gasoline cars and who couldn't. Now, this was a group of car companies that were a part of the plan. So they didn't want some guy like Henry Ford, who was going to make lots and lots of cars and eat up their market. They didn't want to let him start making cars. In 1903, Ford applied for a Selden patent, for a license to build automobiles. He was denied that license. Oops. He filed a countersuit. Henry's refusal and challenge made him a national hero because people realized that they were never going to be able to get a car under this because they were going to keep prices high. They were going to limit the companies that could make them, so there would always be a steady market for their cars. So Henry's refusal, and he took them to court. In May 1909, the court affirmed the Selden patent. So that meant that Henry Ford's lawsuit, he could not make a car without joining the Selden group, and the Selden group didn't want it. So Ford filed for appeal, but in October of 1909, something interesting happened. Billy Durant, the head of General Motors, made Henry an offer for the Ford Motor Company. Now, Henry was facing the possibility, he filed an appeal, but he was facing the possibility, Henry up to this time had built over 15,000 cars since 1903. If he lost the countersuit, he would be responsible to pay for the selling people the amount of money that he was supposed to have deducted and paid down through since 1903. This was a lot of money. So here he was, faced with the prospect of possibly losing this court case, having to come up with all this money, and still not being able to produce cars at the volume that he wanted to, because the only way he could do it would be to join along, and he would have to pay them, and if they let him do it, and they could also limit how many cars he could make. So, at least in part, due to the Sheldon patent suit, Henry Ford accepted General Motors' Billy Durant's offer. But as a stipulation, Henry Ford insisted that he get $2 million cash up front. Now, Durant was quite a player. But he had a board of directors, stockholders for the company, and they would not give him the $2 million. So the deal never went through. In 1911, the court did overturn the decision that the Sheldon patent is no longer valid. So that part of it was removed, but Henry Ford might have been out of business prior to that. What would have happened had Ford sold the Ford Motor Company to GM? Two big things. One of them, Ford believed in economies of scale. His whole idea was that if he built enough cars, bought enough parts, the more parts he bought, the cheaper he could get the parts for, he could reduce the price of the car because of his buying power. Same thing happens in industry today. Durant believed in economies of scope. Economies of scope are very different. That's the GM idea, a product for every person purpose. So Durant wanted to make a number of different style model cars, like you had Buicks, Cadillacs, and these other cars, and the Model T would have just been a low-priced offering as a part of his portfolio. But it is very unlikely that Billy Durant, had he bought the company, ever would have made the investment that was needed to get the scale up to the point where he could reduce the price of the car. It was just another model to him. And if you didn't like that model, you could go get a Chevrolet or a Buick or Cadillac or whatever. So there wasn't the impetus that Henry Ford had to make a car for the masses. If that had happened, the continuously moving assembly line might never have been created. We'll talk more about that later. That was the key issue with Henry Ford's processes. The second thing, changing the cities. Okay, let's get off to the side here a minute. And what we've got is the city center. That's pink area. Okay. The wealthy people lived in the city centers. They were close, they had nice homes, travel was easy, they could walk to work, no problem. This pink area around here was the business class and skilled working class. Farther from the working area, but not that far. There were trolleys at the time. But trolleys had an interesting history. They were not owned by the cities. They were owned by independent people who put them up just to make money, which meant they were expensive to use on a daily basis, and the service was not that great, and they didn't pay their employees very well, and experience on a trolley typically was not very good. The poor and the unskilled worked in the yellow area around the outside. Interesting thing about the yellow area. City services ended at the end of the pink zone. Garbage pickup, street cleaning, all of those things ended at the end of the pink zone. Not the prettiest place to live. Also the longest place to walk to work. Everybody had to walk to work. Then we began to industrialize. And factories started building up, not surprisingly, around the railroad. And they were in factory district, and because people had to walk to work, it was convenient to live just outside, as close as possible. Oops. A couple of things I want to say about this. One of the problems here is labor back then, there were no laws covering labor, there was no protection. Detroit was a wide open town, by the way. There were no unions. There were very few unions in Detroit. So there was no protection for the workers. 80% of the working class people, the ones that lived around the outside, generally experienced some kind of work interruption during the year. And like I said, there was no protection for them. The companies, if they weren't selling goods for a couple months, they just sent everybody home. And the problem was that if you lived in one of these housing areas, you basically had to walk to work and then find another job inside of that factory area. Now you might go across the railroad tracks over here, but this was way too long a walk. Again, there was no service. So if you were out of work, you were out of luck. It was just too hard to find other work. If you did find another job, you might have to move to keep it. This is some other things that they don't talk about in the city. You see these wonderful movies with the carriage rides through the city of New York at the turn of the 20th century. These wonderful pastoral settings. Here's some real data. In New York City, horses and other large animals deposited 2.1 million pounds of excrement on the streets every day. Every day. Also, 60,000 gallons of urine went on the streets every day. Flies, disease, all kinds of issues came from that. New York itself had 2 different cholera epidemics. They used to allow people to keep horses overnight on the street. Well, after the 2 cholera epidemics, they said, yeah, got to find some place up for the horses. But they were still walking there in the day, and the 2.1 million pounds still existed. Many city streets were stoned. The clip-clop of the horses' hoofs, the tremendous amount of noise and background back then. Many horse stables were in residential areas, and the stables were an improvement over having horses on the street. The stench flags and 510s permeated the living areas. We talked about the cholera epidemics and the other things. When Model T and other motor vehicles replaced equine transportation in these cities, life improved substantially. And people tell us today we should get rid of all our cars. Think about this. Okay, most people, as I said, had to walk to work. The work week was 60 hours, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Working class for 70% of the residents. 80% of the working class experienced frequent unemployment. I told you about this. Due to the travel limitations,
offering employment opportunities related. With the automotive travel limitations were reduced, housing was more stable, and employment opportunities decreased. Now, if you have an automobile, you can work any place in the city. Massive change in the economics. Workers can move out of the factory district, have greater employment flexibility, and buy much less expensive property outside the yellow belt. Okay, the third change, changing middle America. In the early 1920s, two sociologists, Robert Strawson and his wife, Ellen Merrill Lynn, began an intensive study of typical middle American city. And middle American city, although the book doesn't say so, it was once in Indiana. Typically, we do. The 1929 book that came from the study was called Middletown. Very interesting book. It's thick. It is readable, even though I was working on a PhD. Oh, I'm terrible. I've now pissed off every PhD. This book gives us a remarkably detailed look at life in a typical American city from the 1990s to the early 1920s. So they covered this span of time, which is exactly the span we're interested in. What happened in Middletown? The first real automobile appeared in Middletown in 1900. It says real automobile, indicating that it looked something like an automobile instead of some of these project cars. Around 1906, it was estimated that about 200 were in the city. And if you remember the original graph, we talked about how many cars per person. Notice between 1900 and 1906, there was a huge jump. We look here, we see that at the turn of the century, there was only one car. Now there was suddenly 200, just in the span of 6 years. At the close of 1923, there were 621 passenger cars in the city, one for every 6.1 persons, or roughly 2 for every 3 families. And this number matches almost perfectly what we saw on the original graph. Of these 622 cars, 41% were Fords, 54% of the total were cars and bonds in 1920 later, and 17% this 41% conflicts a little bit, but you understand that the average working class did not start buying cars until about 1920. So that explains that disparity with the graph. The one that really amazed me is these cars average over 5,000 miles a year. Average car today is about 10,000 miles a year. So these cars were moving. Back to commercial, please. Need a bigger. Put a big tape on this. Tape this out. No. You're evil. That should help. Okay. Yeah, I guess it does work. Yeah, these cars average a bit over 5,000 miles a year. I found that very surprising that we get that kind of mileage. At one time, because the roads was really terrible. Some tidbits on the book. The adoption of the automobile in Middletown started with the business class, which is not surprising. They had the most money. Cars weren't that expensive at the time. And women often drove cars. The primary usage of the early car was for leisure activities and shopping. Mom would take the car shopping. She could now go to the next county or to some other larger city to do her shopping if she wanted to. Also, the family would use it. They would go out and have picnics out in the country. You could go out back then. Farmers didn't care. As long as you pick up a mess and start a fire, they were happy to have you out there. Sometimes they would bring milk out or something to you. So that was very frequent. And so the families did that together. That lasted for about 10 or 15 years, and then it started, as the cars got more cars and more useful, and the family started to spread out somewhat. High school students were driving a family car, and auto dating was becoming popular. That was started about 1916, 17 in the cities. Wasn't that popular in the rural areas for a while. Yeah, auto dating was a big thing. And the farmers, matter of fact, when they started buying cars, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, the big impetus there was if they had, the farmer had a son who was in his teens, he would be far more likely to be badgering his father with the car than the other ones who were perfectly happy with the horse. Working class families began purchasing automobiles by the late teens. And that's probably why we see the surge at the end of the Ford cars. That was what they could afford. And they also were used for leisure shopping. The fourth change, you can't go to town in a bathtub. That came from Book Middletown. What happened was when they were doing the study, they sent out questionnaires to all the farms and the people in those areas and asked them a bunch of questions. One of the questions that they asked the farmers were, what would you rather have in your house? Would you rather have, or what would you rather have? Would you rather have indoor plumbing, running water, an automobile? They were absolutely amazed why, or that a large percentage of the farm women said that they wanted, their first priority was an automobile. And so they went out and they asked them the question. And one lady responded to the people that were doing the study, you know, why do you want a car? Why don't you want indoor plumbing? It makes life so easier. And she said to them, you can't go to town in a bathtub. That meant that transportation was far more important to them than the other details. The rural perspective from an early Ford dealer. Now I have to say, when I started making this presentation and doing it, making slides, I had about half a dozen slides on this. I spent weeks on these slides. Well, at the same time, I was doing some studying for the museum for an exhibit that we were working on. And it had to do with what it was like to go to a Model T show at a Ford dealer to buy a Model T. And so what I found was, I was going through the oral reminiscences. I've talked about the oral reminiscences many times here, but in the early 1950s, there was a Ford Motor Company had a history department. They were getting ready to celebrate their 50th anniversary, and there was a guy in the history department named Owen Bombard, manager, who had an absolutely brilliant idea. He was going to go out and find everybody he could that was still alive, that had worked or had some other significant relationship with Henry Ford in the early years. And Bombard actually found over 240 people that met the criteria and also would be more than willing to sit down with people from the Ford Motor Company and talk about their experiences with Ford. Mr. Housman was one. He was a Ford dealer in Bloomsburg, Illinois, small town, worked